Okay.
All right.
Discussions ongoing even while we're on the break, but we're back and we want to take a look at your feedback. We're talking about public servants and accountability, and we want to hear from you. So let's have those tweets and SMSs up. 22422 is the SMS line. The hashtag is Jaybreak, at Trevor Mbija, at Wahiga Mora, at Zinzi_K, at Citizen TV Kenya. Let's put them up now.
M. Tukatana says performance contracting could help enhance accountability. Most public servants are lax because they know that they are permanent and pensionable and nothing will be done even if they don't perform. So performance contract.
All right. On Twitter, we continue looking. Osiany doesn't look too confident in that. Festus Robert says accountability and meritocracy goes hand in hand. We must value meritocracy. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in Kenya, but Osiany also can help me if I'm wrong. In Kenya, appointments are made on the basis of nepotism and neo-patrimonialism.
Where, Festus?
Wow, okay.
Let's see what else you're saying. Just BT says expecting resignations in a country like Kenya is unrealistic. The system is designed to feed corruption. Kenya will only change when people wake up and demand better. Kenyans must stop supporting the instruments of corruption. Until then, it's business as usual.
She's a Kenyan working in the US, watches us before she goes to bed.
Brilliant.
Seen her tweets quite a bit. Samo Indy says we cannot enhance accountability in public service if we still retain relics from the past, dinosaurs still clinging onto power. We need a complete overhaul of the entire administrative system.
All right, let's see another one here. Governor 254, we say we have a problem when the same people who make the law get to decide whether or not they themselves have broken the law. And he continues to say leaders must develop a lower threshold for alibis and become better communicators and enforcers of what they want done. Holding people accountable to high standards and results is nothing to apologize for. Failing to stretch them to their potential is.
All right. Let's see what else we have. Kevin Omenya says, not in Kenya. In Kenya, it's all about mtu wetu syndrome. Unless we change the system, things will just be the same.
And it's Kemosabi says there's never accountability in this country. It's either everyone always blames everyone or someone blames the other to avoid being held responsible.
Okay, let's take a look at your SMSs. 22422 is the SMS line. And this one is from Komen from Eldred. Thank you for tuning in. You say it's difficult. Not everyone is cut to be a public servant. Surging unemployment has attracted wrong individuals to the service. It's about serving and very little about profiteering and aggrandizement. Great public servants are very few. No wonder poor Kenyans continue to seek social services from the private sector despite huge investments by taxpayers, free primary, free day secondary education, or capitation at boarding schools and colleges. All these have been watered down by unaccountable public servants.
Wow.
Well put.
Well, Sir Nixon from Kindaruma says stringent appraisals should be carried out on every public officer after every 3 months with thresholds based on service to the public in capital.
Thank you for that. No name but to say there are questions to ask. Do you work in a particular post because you have the passion for that position, or do you work for status only? Where is your calling?
All right, let's see what else you're saying. Thaddeus Dubi from Bungoma says, in a country where I would rather die than resign, let us dare to learn from President Magufuli's style of prompt administrative action. With the time, it's going to evoke greater accountability.
Okay, Jeff from Kisii, you say the former CS was a public servant and should have resigned at the interest of the very public, not go by his personal opinion, knowledge of whether the allegations were right or wrong. If they were wrong, we would, of course, have reinstated him. We'll give him a chance to respond to that.
All right, you don't leave a name or where you're texting from, but you say, Mr. Osiany is a board member, Chemelil Sugar. Employees have gone without salary for more than 20 months. Things are worsening. What is he doing?
I should resign.
You should
resign. You know, this is where...
Is that true?
Is that even true?
Let's start there.
You remember when I talked about the situation in the agricultural sector being dire? Industries are dying. Why? Because of corruption.
Is it true they haven't been paid?
Well, for the last 8 months, 20 months is overstated, but I understand what he's trying. He's just trying to paint a picture of what's going on. And that's for Sony Sugar, that's for Chemelil. Miwani was even closed. Muhoroni is under receivership. Mumias is dead. The sugar sector is dead. This morning, I'm headed to sign performance contracting in Embu. I should have been there earlier. And when I heard about performance contracting, it's my considered opinion that what we call performance contracting in the public sector, in public service, is a hoax. It's a joke. But again, how do you expect the MD for Chemelil, for example, to perform without resources to do that? These are factories that were bought in 1978.
Let me ask you, I'm sorry for interrupting you, David. Tell me this. Are you comfortable receiving allowances when employees have not been paid?
Now, this is what you don't know, that we have been working without an allowance. You see, that's the assumption. And when I go for a board meeting, I'm actually digging into my pocket for the last 8 months, Wahiga.
Why?
Out of a desire for service. I am called to service. This is why there's a difference between being a mere person at the top and being a leader. I understand. In fact, we have had to even cancel meetings sometimes and hold them, teleconference and say, guys, what is the solution? But what does the board do? Make proposals to the ministry. Who then decides what to do, to avail resources or not? All right? The sugar sector is such a mess. Such a mess. And no one, I bet, speaks for it more than I do, of all the board members who are currently serving in different sugar sectors, all the way to Nzoia. We have had to dig. Buzeki, who's the chairman, myself, Atieno, some of these directors have had to, out of the desire to see these things transform. The task force was put the other day to try and get solutions for the sugar sector. And it was infiltrated by the very cartels from whom we are trying to run. So the report has not ended up being implemented even. So
how long can you carry on? I want to understand it before you go to him. So how long will you do this for, David?
You can only do it for so long. No, listen, you see, if we used to have 10 meetings in a year, I can only do 3 meetings out of my own pocket. Because there are no resources, and that is not my mandate. When I went to Chemelil, knowing there was a struggle in that sector, when I was appointed to Chemelil board, was to try and get solutions for it. Solutions that I cannot implement. We can only propose, as we have done, on what is the roadmap for reviving the sugar industry, up to and including Chemelil. If the principal secretary then picks it up, convinces the CS, speaks to the president, avails resources. These are factories that were built in 1978. We are still using machines that were done 40 years ago, that have over time become obsolete. The cost of production is therefore very high. In a country where, remember, we always have the threshold pay for our workers, the lowest minimum income. So you have to bear with that lower wage, a rising wage, and a production unit that is obsolete, and try to manage to produce sugar. You produce this sugar, you have cartels importing sugar at almost a third of the price and selling it for the local price. You have killed the sector, you have built the cartels. That is why corruption is ailing this sector. But now then, to the listener, what do I do? Do I resign? Then what? Who will come and do it differently? Unless the state does it.
And Kirwa, this is what you're talking about, accountability structures, because certain issues start from a very long time ago, but you still end up being the forefront of it at some point. So how do we balance that?
When I left the sector, it was not ailing as much as is described. I had retired farmers' arrears from 2.7 billion to 0. Now they came, they formed other organizations, they took away the sugar board, they took away the sugar levy, they lumped into some other fund that is not discernible by sugarcane farmers. They took away the research facilities that they were giving to the sugar subsector. So I don't know exactly what to do. But the problem in Kenya lies in a number of factors. One is tribalism. Let's not run away from that. As long as we tribalize, even fighting against corruption, we are not likely to succeed. We still have a problem. As long as we personalize war against corruption, we've got a problem. As long as we politicize, say that if you are on this side of the equation, you are a good guy. When you move to the other side, we say all the ills that you have as a person. Finally, it is important also that we learn to stick to ethics and ethical practices, because as long as we worship money, the more money you make, the more respect you earn from the entire society. People will ask, oh, you are a minister. You mean you never fixed this for yourself? You never did this for yourself? Some of the things which are beyond Even members of parliament, they suffer every day. Their salary, which could be 1 million shillings, the kind of list that they are given, no member of parliament as of now is earning more than 100,000 unless he has got some side business. So it is the attitude of our society, the way we respect those who have money, the way we frown upon those who have no money, without looking at what is their performance. In terms of, finally, well, I've said finally twice. we need exemplary leadership. It cannot just come from nowhere. Remember when Murtala Mohammed took over in Nigeria, civil servants in the office were in the office by 7:30 in the morning. When NAC regime took over 2003, people were arresting policemen for soliciting for bribes. When Michuki rules came, the support from the public was overwhelming because they believed Michuki meant what was going to improve the sector. So can the president be believable when he's saying he's fighting corruption? Is he doing selective decision making? Or is he fighting corruption that even if it touches on him or his family, is going to allow the thing to roll? What happened to the containers that cost almost 43 billion? To the Kenya government.
What happened to the lifestyle audit?
Yes, what happened to lifestyle audit?
That was announced.
Are we talking about it?
For public servants.
So these are some of the issues that, unless we unearth and we talk openly, we are pretending as a nation.
Say, are you concerned when you hear with the statement that Osiany made, that even if it's a bad situation, so if I resign, then what? Who will do it differently?
No, I mean, who will fill
the shoes?
I am concerned, but I do empathize with you. I see where you're coming from. I hear where you're coming from. But I just allow me to just switch slightly. And I ask myself sometimes, so as we are talking about public servants and their responsibility or accountability to us, what is our accountability as well as citizens who are not public servants? So my accountability pathway is to, for example, use tools such as the Freedom of Information Act of 2016 to ask questions. To myself be responsible as a citizen, but to ask questions of the public servant. So not just to complain and attack and push, but to ask questions and be supportive. Let me say something. We asked, from an accountability perspective, for the petroleum share agreement for tallow oil.
I was about to talk to you about that.
We have never seen it. We have never seen it. So even though it's not a static event that we are trying as citizenry to hold public servants accountable, not just by attacking them, but by saying, let's have a conversation. We have never been shown the PSA for tallow. Another example where
SGR.
Public servants, SGR is another example. Let's go a bit international, regional. Let's look at the Kenya-Somalia maritime dispute, where sentiments were being whipped up in the most irresponsible manner by public servants and spouses of public servants, telling us things about Somalis, this, what, we need to recolonize, etc., etc. Imagine the politics of escalation and where this would have taken us. And even if they whipped Kenyans into a space of patriotism to protect our maritime space, is the government, after the ICJ decides, let's say there's a bit of a share between Somalia and Kenya in the long run, if we have fought as Kenyans and we have supported this accountability process and ICJ has come in and given Kenya a segment, what is the government of Kenya going to do with the trillions of cubic feet of biomass under there? Are they then going to sell it to international interests? And
in deals that we do not have access to.
Wanjiko ultimately has no access to the information about those deals, and the benefits never trickle down. Yet the same Wanjiko and Kimani and whoever were the same people who are being whipped into a frenzy to go and attack the neighbor and say, protect our territory as Kenya. So the accountability pathway is so vast. It's about money, yes. It's about how you conduct yourself as a leader and how finally you present information back to the public in a manner that the public has confidence that as a public servant, you're working in their interest and for their interest. And this is what is not happening. That is why I say during the break, I'm not interested in leadership by daring. I'm not impressed that the president is daring to tackle things. If he says he is the president, handshake notwithstanding, he has a responsibility to act swiftly and decisively without fear or favor. And this is where he is failing consistently. So I hold him at the top as a chief accounting officer of the Republic of Kenya. I hold him accountable. And if it was a question of resigning, before I come to Osiany to ask him to resign, I would ask President Uhuru Kenyatta to resign. First and foremost, if we are going that way, if we are going to trickle it up and say, where does the buck stop? The buck stops with Uhuru Kenyatta. And I
That's
don't
how
want
you see it.
That's how I see it.
Tell me
That's how
about
I
this.
see
There's
it.
a term called individual ministerial responsibility. It's actually in the Constitution in the UK, if you use the Westminster system, that a cabinet minister bears the ultimate responsibility for the actions of their ministry or department. It's in their law. Do you think we should have something like that in our laws?
Absolutely, I do know somebody who is more constitutionally, who knows the exact letters down to what they could tell us. I don't know if that exists in Kenya at the moment, but it should.
It wasn't in chapter 6 for sure.
It should be the case, because when, as I said on Daybreak a few months ago, when an 8-year-old boy is electrocuted by a live wire of Kenya Power, and that live wire was an earth wire. So earth is supposed to be, as far as I know, grounded. It's not supposed to be live, and kills an 8-year-old child. This is Kenya Power. This is the energy sector. The back goes all the way back to where? Ministry of Energy, to Keter, to Njoroge. These things happen on a daily basis. Or in my Twitter inbox, my feeds are full of dangerous, shoddy, incredibly inept service. And you can come to Jared Otieno, who is the acting MD, and you know acting MDs and CEOs are set up for failure. But why doesn't it go back to the ministry? I mean, the buck stops with the CS, and he is still in office.
And I'm going to, okay. I'll stop you there. He's not here to defend himself.
He should come. Invite him.
We will invite him. Thank you for that, Gabriel.
Yes. You know, as we talk about embracing value, you know, ethics and accountability, I like what Madam Zay had said earlier on, that there is a role, a significant one, if I may say, for us as well as citizens, common citizens. You know, I'm just reminded of the fact that it is very easy to point a leader and say, you know what, we are in this situation because that person is holding that office. But then again, I go to the story that I just told you about the farm tortoise, who put him there, and the democracy in Kenya. Why do we elect leaders the same way we do? Because I believe, when I talked about the value system, that's what is wrong. We do not outsource our leaders, Wahiga. Me and Osiany, we go and vote for them. Just the issue about Mumias. Look at what we did with eyes wide open. We knew the people who had brought Mumias down, but what did we do? We sanitized them and we made them governors. Very same people. So who has the problem? The problem is not that we found a farm tortoise up on a tree. The issue is who put it there. We put these leaders there. So we have a very big social responsibility when every time we go to the ballot box, every time you start talking about, you know what, this man is talking my tribe, this man looks like me, I'll vote for him. Guess what? I told somebody the other day, if you go to Mathare Hospital now, find 100 madmen, put in Osiany there and tell them, guys, choose in or choose a leader among you. Do you know what they'll do? They'll choose one of them. They won't even think about Osiany. You know why? They wouldn't go for responsibility, they'll go for similarity. That's a good one.
That is okay. Although fair to say that your example could have been more appropriate. no, honestly, for people with mental.
No. I'm just saying similarity.
Yes.
When we take thieves, when you go to a pack of thieves, and you bring an honest person. No, I'm just using.
Yeah.
When you go for a pack of thieves, get a very honest person. Guess what they'll do? They'll choose one among them. Why? Similarity. And no pun intended to anybody, but that's our psyche. That is how the human mind functions. So up until such a time, when we are able to deconstruct this nonsense of, you know what, mtu wangu, mtu wetu, then at the very least, we'll start heading in the right direction. You know, I always tell people the Mandela moment that I like, because we took it that, you know what, for me to be anything, I must stick onto leadership. I must stay there as long as I can. But Mandela taught us something very different. Coming out of prison, when the whole world expected, if Mandela came out and said, I'm going to be the lifetime president for South Africa, guess what? Nobody would have gone against it. In fact, the world was ready to accept that. But the man goes for one term. And you know what he tells the entire Africa? It is not how long you serve, it is how well you serve. So the credibility of existence in matters leadership should be through what you do for the people, the transformation agenda that you have. If we are so keen of leaving Kenya a better place, borrowing from what Obama said, that every time we think of the future, let us approach it as having borrowed it from our children,
not our forebearers. If we come with that mentality, we will say, it is not only say to do the change, it is me. It is the person who we've given that job to understand that he's not there to self-please himself, but it is the common interest of Wanjiku that we must raise. And now, you know what they said? We must raise together or do what? Or end up
or perish
as fools.
Okay, right. Okay. We're due for a break, but briefly, go ahead.
Yeah, Waiga, ask yourself, at the eve of every election, what are the issues in play? Remember the 5 elections that we've just had. For the last 5 elections, it is about tribalism, tribalism, tribalism. In 2002, we were talking about Moi must go. In 2007, it was 41 against 1. In 2013, it was referendum against The Hague. 2 individuals hanging together because of the problems that they were facing. 2017, it was not clear what the agenda was. So as long as we still allow tribalism to balkanize our communities by fear of the other community, we are not likely to resolve the problem.
Okay.
And Kenya, we still got that problem, such that if you talk so well, somebody says, oh, I did not know that you are such a good fellow. When somebody says, I have a friend, he will not just say friend from Kisumu. He will say, I have a Luo friend, which means the tribe is different from the person that is your friend. So as long as that conversation is still full in our talk, we are not likely to resolve this problem of tribalism.
1 minute.
You spoke about individual ministerial culpability and responsibility. But you know, it is important to note that that comes from years of engraving a culture in people. In the UK, and that's why the Lord went to resign, because the culture of timekeeping has been a culture in them. My thesis was on contextual implementation of internationalized policies. If we pick something from the West and want to bring it here, it will count for naught if you do not consider context. And so, yes, I look forward to that day, but I'm not big on taking everything from the white man and putting it on us. We can generate our own way of holding our leaders accountable, and I agree. We must get to a point where the leaders get, you know, to understand the backstops with them and bear that responsibility. However, it must be upon demonstration that they've been unable to take action on stated things. For example, when Jerotich has explained elaborately for over a year, these are the issues. You would expect that the CS in charge of energy has waded into the matter to try and find the solution in case there is, you know, an algorithm that makes the bills high. He has tried to find out from the ICT department or fired whoever is there. Nothing has happened from the top. Now, at that point, then you say, 4 months of consistent, bickering over this issue and complaints, you have not done a thing, step aside because now you are to blame. Remember, I said Kenya Ferry Services, Kenya Coast Guard, the CEOs did nothing. They didn't take action. The PS did nothing. The chairs of the boards and the board members did zero. At that point then, I would request the CS to step aside. Why? Because when the people below did not take action, he did not demand for answers at the bottom. And when you don't demand or action yourself, then you have to bear that responsibility.
All right, let's take a quick break on that note and see what you're saying online. There's a lot of feedback. When we come back, we'd like to delve into the issue of how now does the public wade into this? How do they hold their leaders?
And what are our local solutions? As some have said here, let's not just borrow everything from the West.
Exactly.
Without contextualizing it to our setup.
Brilliant. Let's see what you're saying online. 22422 is SMS line, and Trevor Mbija to Citizen TV Kenya, and Wega Mwaura @Zinzi_K, #Daybreak. Let's bring them up and see what you're saying.
All right, Mr. Kilui says Kenya Ferry Services has its own management that is tasked to ensure accountability is done at ground level before involving the CS. The CS takes information from the management on the progress of ferry services. What if he was being informed otherwise? You continue to say that we are quick to force someone to resign before investigating who exactly was directly involved in the incident. Government hierarchy and protocol must be respected. Okay, that's their view there.
Fair enough. Kambaga 1 says no accountability. It is all about the money. Nobody bothers to offer quality services to the public, but rather how to siphon public funds and amass more wealth in the expense of the taxpayers.
Okay, Wanjiru Smith says the only way is to fire people left, right, and center. If one cannot be thorough and diligent in their job, then obviously they're not meant for the job and someone else can do it better. Okay.
All right. Patrick Mutunga says justice should be applied equally to all Kenyans. When a misappropriation is done by a state officer, he or she is always out on bond or even bail. Common Mwananchi is jailed for years and is left to carry his or her own cross.
All right, we have 3 SMSs. Let's take a look at the first one. This one coming in from Joseph Nawadi from Kakamega. Corruption, nepotism, and tribalism is what has brought us into this madness.
Chomba from Nairobi says, I think most of our leaders don't care because their children and immediate family members don't even use these filthy services. They are in developed nations enjoying the best health care the world can offer, best education, best transport systems led by accountability and responsible people. No wonder most of them are silent in regards to these accidents caused by negligence.
And one last one before we take that break. No name here, but you say public service accountability remains a nightmare in Kenya. I'm a victim of public office frustrations. Since April 2018, I still have not gotten any justice, yet people are earning salaries and sleeping on their jobs. Wow. Okay, what revelations this morning.
All right.
Point to take a break as we reflect on that. We'll be back to conclude this discussion and also take a look at some of the things that we raised.
Absolutely.
Yes, local solutions and so forth. We'll be right back.